Have you ever had a really, really bad day at work? A day so terrible you thought you might not make it through? Well, today I want to tell you about a man who had the worst work week in human history. And it's a story that sounds completely made up, but I promise you, it is 100% true. It's the story of Tsutomu Yamaguchi, the man who survived not one, but two atomic bombs. Let's set the scene. The year is 1945. World War II is in its final, brutal stage. In Japan, life is a mix of tension, scarcity, and a grim determination to carry on. Our story begins with a young man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi. He's a 29-year-old naval engineer, working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. He's a smart, dedicated professional, a husband, and a father. Like many people at the time, he is just trying to do his job and provide for his family amidst the chaos of war. In the summer of 1945, Yamaguchi and two of his colleagues were sent on a business trip. Their destination, Hiroshima. Their mission was to work on a new design for an oil tanker. This trip was supposed to last 3 months, and for Yamaguchi, it was just another part of his duty. He probably missed his wife Hisako and their infant son, Katsutoshi, back in their hometown of Nagasaki. But work was work. The business trip was winding down. It was early August, and Yamaguchi and his colleagues had finished their assignment. They were scheduled to head back home on August 6th. Can you imagine the relief? After 3 months away, he was finally going home to his family. On the morning of August 6th, Yamaguchi was on his way to the Mitsubishi shipyard to say his goodbyes, before catching a train back to Nagasaki. It was a clear, sunny morning. As he was walking, he realized he had forgotten his hanko, his personal seal, which was basically like an official signature stamp in Japan. He couldn't leave without it, so he turned around and started walking back to his lodgings to retrieve it. This small, seemingly insignificant decision would change his life forever. It was exactly 8:15 a.m. As Yamaguchi walked, he heard the drone of an airplane in the sky. He looked up and saw a single American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay. From the belly of that plane, a small object was dropped. Yamaguchi watched it fall, trailing 2 parachutes. And then, the world exploded. A blinding, searing flash of light, what he later described as a great magnesium flare, consumed the entire sky. Before he could even process what he was seeing, an incredible force, a silent, crushing wave of pressure, slammed into him. He was thrown into the air, spinning like a leaf in a tornado, before landing hard in a nearby potato patch. He was less than 3 kilometers, just under 2 miles, from the epicenter of the first atomic bomb ever used in warfare. The heat was so intense it instantly burned the left side of his body. His eardrums were ruptured by the concussive blast, leaving him temporarily deaf. The world around him was fire and darkness. The clear morning had turned into a nightmare twilight, as dust and debris blotted out the sun. Yamaguchi was dazed, in excruciating pain, and profoundly confused. He managed to get up. The city he had known for the past 3 months was gone. Buildings were flattened. Fires raged everywhere. He saw horrific scenes, things no human should ever have to witness. Disoriented, but driven by a primal need to survive, he found his 2 colleagues, Akira Iwanaga and Kuniyoshi Sato, who had also miraculously survived the blast. Together, the 3 men, all injured, spent a terrifying night in an air raid shelter. They were surrounded by the sounds of the dying and the constant crackle of a city burning to the ground. They had no idea what had happened. A single bomb. How could one bomb do all this? It was beyond comprehension. All Yamaguchi could think about was getting home. Home to his wife and son. Home to Nagasaki. The next day, August 7th, against all odds, they made their way through the apocalyptic landscape to the train station. It was chaos, but some trains were still running. They boarded a train packed with other burned, injured, and bewildered survivors. It was a journey through hell. For hours, they traveled, the smell of burning and death clinging to them, their bodies aching, their minds reeling. On August 8th, Tsutomu Yamaguchi finally arrived back in his hometown of Nagasaki. He went straight to a local hospital to get his burns treated. The bandages wrapped around his arms and face made him look like a mummy. The doctor, an old friend, barely recognized him. After getting some medical attention, he finally made it home. His family was shocked at his appearance, but overjoyed that he was alive. He was exhausted, burned, and half-deaf. But he was home. He was safe. Or so he thought. The very next morning, Augusto Bitiace, despite his severe injuries, Yamaguchi did what was expected of him. He reported for work. He had to explain to his boss at the Mitsubishi office what had happened, why he was back early, and why he was covered in bandages. Imagine this scene. It's just before 11 a.m. Yamaguchi is in his manager's office, recounting the unbelievable events he witnessed in Hiroshima. He's describing the single bomb, the blinding flash, the mushroom-shaped cloud, the city being wiped off the map. His manager is skeptical. "Yamaguchi-san," he says, "you're an engineer. You know that's impossible. How could one bomb destroy an entire city? You must be delirious from your injuries." And at that exact moment, as his boss was dismissing his story as a fever dream, history decided to repeat itself in the most cruel and unimaginable way possible. Another brilliant, white flash lit up the room, even brighter than the one in Hiroshima. The windows exploded. The office was ripped apart by the same monstrous force Yamaguchi had just survived 3 days earlier. He was thrown across the room. The second atomic bomb, Fat Man, had been dropped on Nagasaki. Once again, by a staggering twist of fate, Yamaguchi was about 3 kilometers from the epicenter, the very same distance as in Hiroshima. The blast this time tore the bandages from his body. He was knocked unconscious for a time. When he awoke, the city of Nagasaki was suffering the same fate as Hiroshima. Fire, destruction, and death were everywhere. He staggered out of the ruins of his office building. The world was on fire again. For the second time in 72 hours, he was at the heart of a nuclear apocalypse. He didn't think about the odds. He didn't think about history. He thought about his family. Erusedome, fearing the absolute worst. His neighborhood had been flattened, but as he searched through the rubble of where his house once stood, he found Tim, his wife, and his baby son. They were out searching for burn ointment when the bomb dropped, and a nearby tunnel ended up saving their lives. They were injured, but they were alive. In the days that followed, Yamaguchi's condition worsened. On top of his existing burns, he now suffered from the effects of a double dose of radiation. His hair fell out. The wounds on his arms turned gangrenous. He had a high fever and couldn't stop vomiting. He lay in a makeshift shelter, convinced he was going to die, listening to the cries of his own infant son, who was also sick from radiation exposure. But somehow, against every conceivable odd, Tsutomu Yamaguchi did not die. He slowly, painfully, began to recover. His family recovered with him. He had stared into the heart of 2 nuclear infernos and walked out. For many years after the war, Yamaguchi tried to live a normal life. He worked as a translator for the Allied occupation forces, then as a schoolteacher, before eventually returning to his engineering career at Mitsubishi. He and his wife Hisako had 2 more children, both daughters, born after the war. For decades, he rarely spoke of his experience. It was too painful, too traumatic. To most people, he was just another survivor, a Hibakusha from Nagasaki. His double survival was a private burden he carried. It wasn't until he was in his 80s, after losing his son Katsutoshi to cancer, that Yamaguchi began to feel a duty to speak out. He became a vocal advocate for nuclear He wrote a book, he participated in documentaries, and in 2006, he traveled to the United Nations in New York to speak. He addressed the world, saying, "The reason that I hate the atomic bomb is because of what it does to the dignity of human beings." It was only in 2009, just a year before his death, that the Japanese government officially recognized him as a near hibakusha, a double bomb person. He remains the only person ever to be officially confirmed as a survivor of both the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. There may have been others, perhaps as many as 160, but he is the only one with the paperwork to prove it. Tsutomu Yamaguchi passed away in 2010, at the age of 93. He lived a long life, a life that defied probability and logic. His story is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It's a terrifying reminder of the destructive power we possess. And it is a powerful plea for peace from a man who saw the end of the world twice and chose to spend the rest of his days fighting to make sure no one else ever has to. A man who had the worst business trip imaginable, but who turned that unimaginable horror into a message of hope for all of humanity. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories from history. See you next time.